Hello class. We're going to work on Chapter 8, the Pleistocene hominids and the coming of the genus Homo. The Pleistocene, that's the Pliocene-Pleistocene connection. The Pliocene being from 5 million years ago to 2 million years ago, or 1.8 million years ago. Then the Pleistocene kicks in, also known as the Ice Age, till about 10,000 years ago. And it's through the Pliocene that we see the hominids come up. And then it's in the Pleistocene that we see the genus Homo come up. So let's take a look. First, I want to make sure that you know about canine dimorphism and the supraorbital torus. Canine dimorphism is the difference in size of canine teeth between male and female in a species. And the supraorbital torus, also known as the brow ridge, is the ridge above the eyes that bulges out in most hominids. Most hominids. Ours doesn't. Bony protrusions like that are associated with muscle growth and muscle placement. We're going to look at biocultural evolution. I have been talking about that all semester. The mosaic of habitats, you saw part of that in the first film, Becoming Human, The First Steps. We're going to look at the late Pliocene, which would be about 2 million years ago. Robust hominids, gracile hominids, diversification of and Homo erectus. Let's take a look. Biocultural evolution is an evolutionary change and adaptation through both somatic and extrasomatic means. And I've talked about this. When we talk about genetic drives, certainly early on, behaviors were genetically controlled to some degree. But with the nervous system coming in, the nervous system's design is to interact in the environment with the information that nervous system takes in through its life. So a snake has a nervous system, but they're not going to be having conversations or building cities. They're very isolated. They're very solitary. With mammals, you have live birth, placental birth. The mother must feed every offspring. Every mother must feed that offspring from her body. It changes the relationship of life on Earth. This is part of what the nervous system is bringing in. Not the nervous system itself, but natural selection is selecting for cohesive relationships. With mammals, we see it to some degree. With primates, we see it to a much greater degree. That's one of the reasons I showed so many films of apes. That you see they have these relationships, that they are connected. This is the nervous system. So the cultural in the biocultural is the nervous system and how we can change the world around us to meet our needs. And we can do that way more than any other species. The problem today is we need to take responsibility for that kind of power. And that kind of power is the hallmark of humanity. It is what separates us from the rest of the animals. Our ability to understand in great detail the world around us and to talk about it and to plan what to do about it. The hallmark of humanity begins about 2 million years ago. We actually see the first stone tools about 2.5 million years ago, but they're not in association with any of the hominids until Homo habilis that we'll talk about. And we'll talk about those Oldowan tools. And then not so long after Homo habilis, we see Homo erectus, Homo ergaster with the Chulian tools. And this is turning the world into our use, into the use of those creatures. Mosaic of habitats. Again, we saw this in the first film, First Steps. In Africa, in East Africa in particular, you can see in this picture, there are many different habitats. Savannas, mountainous ranges, forested areas. And then you add to that the change of climate over time. It talked about the extreme climate changes for about 2,000 years. And then that first film, and how it's thought that that climate change drives brain size, that and access to meat, which tools give better access to meat. The Pleistocene. The Pliocene is 5 million years to about 1.8 million years ago. The Pleistocene is about 1.8 million years ago to about 10,000 years ago, also known as the Ice Age. Late Pliocene fossils, so between 5 and 2 million years, and this goes beyond 2 million years, especially the robust. But the robust group, they have stout mandibles, and that's the jaw, massive chewing apparatus, the jaw, and the sagittal crest. You'll see my finger right up here. This is the sagittal crest, that little bony outgrowth at the top. That's for muscle attachment. And gracile groups. The teeth are large, but not as large as robust groups. They're much more slightly built, or they're more slightly built, not much more. And it's because of that slighter build, the idea is that one of these groups is the ancestor to the genus Homo, and then, of course, to us. Gracile and robust hominids and diet. We talked about this a little bit in the last chapter. And on the left, we have the gracile microscopic look at a tooth. On the right, we have a robust microscopic look at the tooth. The striations show that they had a very different diet. So that sagittal crest on robust hominids. We see that same sagittal crest in gorillas today. It's associated with the type of diet that species has evolved to eat. And so the idea of roots and nuts and tougher foods calls for that sagittal crest. And again, in a niche, like a forest niche, if you're exploiting different products in that niche, then you're not in each other's way. Here's a look at the muscle. Again, you can see the sagittal crest up here with robust. The muscles attached there come down through the zygomatic arch and connect to the mandible. You can see with the gracile, same muscle attachment, but there is no bony outgrowth, no sagittal crest at the top. They ate more fruits, insects, and things like that. Robust hominid fossils. They date about 2.7 to 1 million years ago. Three types that we'll look at is Paranthropus aethiopicus from East Africa, Paranthropus boisei from East Africa, and Paranthropus robustus from South Africa. If you remember last week, I said begin to differentiate between East and South, and then Northern and Central, and then time periods, and it will help you get a better idea for the quiz. The Paranthropus boisei, the megadontia as it's called, this is the most extreme chewing mechanism of all hominids. Paranthropus aethiopicus from East Africa, the earliest robust hominid fossil. The difference in the degree of facial prognosticism between boisei and aethiopicus results primarily from dramatic reduction in the size of the incisors and the canines. But they are both robust hominids. Found on west side of Lake Turkana in East Africa. Paranthropus boisei, also in East Africa, initially named Zinjanthropus boisei. The Leakey family found this fossil. Megadontia suggests largest teeth relative to body size of any hominid. Known from multiple fossils, all from East Africa, dating between 2.3 and 1.3 million years ago. Paranthropus robustus. Robust hominid that has hands quite similar to human hands. And that's kind of interesting, but it has to do with the difference between a bony placement between the index finger and the thumb. The film at the end of this presentation will talk about that a little bit. Found at 4 major sites in South Africa. Robustus, Paranthropus robustus is from South Africa. dating between 2 and 1 million years. Robust hominid behavior. Let's look at the habitat, the diet, the tools, and social life, like we did with the graciles. Habitat included a broader set of climates and habitats than existed for earlier hominids. A grassland and woodland environment with numerous lakes, but then rapidly fluctuating climate change. And like they said in the film, the lakes would come and go. Huge lakes would dry up and then be refilled because of the immense climate change. Diet. The extreme morphology of the skulls, like I've talked about, and the teeth, suggests they relied on heavily on tough vegetarian diets of seeds, roots, nuts, and hard-to-process leafy matter. But they also probably ate some meat. Tools. Simple modified tools are found in the same general time and vicinity as both Boisei and Robustus fossils. However, at least 2 other types of hominids were around the same time, and no tools were found exclusively with any Paranthropus. The genus is Paranthropus. Robustus, Aethiopicus, and Boisei are the species. And that's why they haven't been associated, the stone tools, with these earlier hominids. And these earlier hominids had a brain size between 350 and 400 cc's, still around the size of an ape. Social life. Not much material evidence was left behind except for fossil bones. The reduced sexual dimorphism, that's the difference in size between male and female, suggests a different social grouping than earlier afarensis. If you remember, we talked about the sexual dimorphism. It's thought is maintained, or that the larger size is because of male competition. So this suggests there wasn't heavy male competition for females. Ardipithecus ramidus. Fossil pollens and other fossil remains associated with the fossil finds of Ardipithecus ramidus suggest that it lived in a woodland forested environment. Ardipithecus ramidus could be recognized as the earliest human leading to the genus Homo, but we don't know. You'll notice in this picture, Ardipithecus ramidus also still had an opposable big toe. Gracile hominids fossils. Australopithecus gari from East Africa, discovered at the Hata area in the Buri geological formation of Ethiopia in 1999. Australopithecus africanus from South Africa, known from fossils of more than 50 individuals. So they have, they tell individuals by having 2 left humeruses or anything like that. Shared traits with Australopithecus afarensis. Do not have chewing morphology like robust Paranthropus. No gracile hominid does. And again, because of the gracile shape, possible human ancestors. Gracile hominid behavior. Habitat, savannas, woodlands, and semi-forests. Diet would have had to support the increase in brain size later on with habilis, rudolfensis, as we'll talk about in a second. And so the idea of adding animal protein would have been the fastest way to accommodate such growth. Tools. Now if we get into Homo habilis, away from Australopithecines and Paranthropus, the first genus Homo is Homo habilis, is associated with the first stone tools, which is why it gets the genus Homo, and the brain size is up to 700 cc's. So it is a larger brain. Also, the brain's being wired differently.